Hello, 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 hello. Good morning and welcome. My name is Lee Cara, and this is Unleash Your Light Live. I'm going to take just a moment. I'm going to share with my friends. I hope you will share with your friends as well. This is going to be a great show, you guys. I say that all the time, but it's because the message is so important to me. And today we're definitely addressing a tough topic, a very tough topic. Once again, this is a show where I will say trigger alert, trigger alert, trigger alert, trigger alert. All right. So if something in this show makes you mad, makes you upset, if something in this show makes you mad, makes you upset, makes you want to change channel, makes you want to punch me in the face, makes you want to cry, and you can't watch anymore, save this show. Hi, Nita. Welcome. Save this show. Because like I always say, anything that gives you a strong reaction is a place in you that needs healing, a place in you that needs exploration, especially in this awakening. Those moments of being triggered are our clues to ourself. They're like our that negative narratives way of popping up and going, hey, guess what? You still have work to do, which we all always do have work to do because we're human, right? So that's what we're going to it's going to push some buttons. We're going to be talking about some stuff. And I want to say ahead of time, this is not an endorsement of any politics, any policies, any belief systems, none of that. Okay, guys? Okay, I'm always up for a good debate, but with respect and an open heart and an open mind, right? So anything that we post, especially on this type of a show, we want to make sure that we're posting from a place of thoughtfulness and mindfulness, not about political correctness or anything like that. It's about thoughtfulness and mindfulness and being self-aware of what you're actually saying to people, okay? So we're going to talk about the current event conundrum. And being in these communities and having the friends that I have and speaking, with these other people who broadcast and people who practice healing and people who are in this movement, as well as connecting with people outside of the movement, people that have been my friends for years and people that I meet and people that I interact with. There are several trains of thought in this spiritual community. One is you meet the people who say, I don't watch any television. I call them the ignorers. I don't watch any television. I don't watch any news. I don't pay attention to anything that's happening. It's all a part of the 3D construct and it's all in the matrix and I don't pay any attention to that. I live beyond that. Okay. So that's one type of person. And I'm not denigrating any of these, but I do have a point. Okay. So bear with me. The next area of person that I run into a lot is the person who is, I'll call them single-minded conspiracy, like single-minded thought process conspiracy, who says, I don't pay attention to all that stuff because of aliens, the deep state, the matrix, the Illuminati, the blah, 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 blah. They have the Pleiadian, they have a theory. They have a belief system that says all of that is fake because of this belief system. And so you shouldn't pay attention to any of that. And anytime someone mentions it, you need to tell them that they're not seeing the truth. Okay. So that's another realm of this being in this spiritual practice. And then you have the people who are trying to exist in both worlds at the same time, pay attention to what's going on, not paying attention, be in it, but not be of it, but not in it, be in it, but not of it, like not get so emotionally involved in it, but still pay attention. I consider myself in a complete opposite category. And I believe that many more of us who consider ourselves light workers or empaths or healers, energy workers, however you like to categorize or label or title what it is that you do. I think that many more of us need to be making the shift into this space that I'm going to talk about. Okay. And the reason that I believe that is because we are the ones who are awakened, who were brought here to make the beginnings of the change happen. All of you who are here and all of you who are doing this, you know that there's a big shift, whatever you want to call it, a big event, there's a lot of things that people say about what's coming and the changes that are coming, and that we are the ones who are at the forefront of that, right? As the light workers, the empaths, the energy healers, this movement is getting bigger and bigger of the spiritual following the message, not the messenger. We, as the light workers, I believe it is our mission, our duty, our place on this planet to shift the energy. But if you are refusing to see the negative, if you turn away from what's going on, how can you shift it? How can you specifically address the energy of that? If you don't deal with people who speak one way, I liken this, I did a whole show on narcissists, naysayers, and negative people as well. If you refuse to deal with those people, then how are you ever going to improve yourself, change yourself, shift yourself, as well as affect the world around you? Okay, so current event conundrum. Current events, I talk about emotions a lot, right? And I get really deep into the different emotions that we carry around with us and ways for you to explore them and ways for you to like face them head on and deal with them and pull them out and heal them so you can connect with your divinity, right? In current events, like I said, you have the avoiders and you have the people who believe this is all it is, one-way conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. And you have the people who are trying to figure out which fence to ride. You also have people outside the movement who are extreme activists. You have people who are extreme supporters in one direction or the other and think only their way is right. You could even liken that to Christianity. Only my way is right. When we encounter people like this, when we are in our day-to-day lives, when we are dealing with this kind of stuff, we have to use that same empathy, that same unconditional love, that same focus, self-awareness, and mindfulness that we are trying to turn on ourselves outwardly. But what happens is, if you refuse to deal with it, then I believe, just my personal opinion, I believe that you are turning your back on the fire. Because as light workers, we're supposed to be here to transmute the energy or heal or anything like that. And for those of you just barely starting out, it can be very difficult to deal with those, to filter out other people's emotions from your own, especially if you're an empath, to separate the energies and to not become emotionally entangled with the injustices in the world, with the tragedies that we see in the current events of the world, not just here in the States, but over in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, in the Middle East. We see all of this stuff, right? And a lot of us, as soon as we start seeing horrible stories about pain and suffering and torture and that sort of stuff, we will shut down and we will refuse to see it. It doesn't mean it's not still going on. It doesn't mean it's not still going on. Now, in the 3D world, some people will pick up their signs, they'll march, they'll do all this activist stuff, right? And then in the spiritual side, we have people who look at that and say, that's a waste of time because all of this is an illusion, right? So, there has to be something in between those. I feel like there's a role for all of us in facing these things that go on in the world. And if you are a light worker, you are an energy worker, you are a person who understands that we're creating reality, that we're manipulating the energy of the world, quantum physics, blah, 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 then just you viewing these things that are happening through the eyes of empathy, compassion, and forgiveness, which is a very difficult thing, can shift a situation. And even though you may think, I'm one person, what does my little opinion and my little sending energy do? Imagine if there was 1 million of you. There was an experiment done in the DC area where there's a lot of crime right outside of our nation's capital. For those of you who don't live in the States, there's a lot of crime, and there's literally, $1 million neighborhoods right next to what could be considered the slums, the projects, whatever. It's a great wealth disparity. And they did an experiment where they brought in like 10,000 Buddhist monks, and they had them meditate for 6 weeks on peace in that area. And they actually brought down the crime rate. Now, these monks weren't going out down the streets talking to people doing crimes. They weren't doing hands-on work in the community like many people choose to do. They were literally just meditating on peace and togetherness and unity. And they literally changed the crime rates by a huge amount, a huge percentage, considering, that they literally weren't doing anything outside of their own minds. Okay. So imagine if all of us who are watching this, if all of us who are considering ourselves light workers, empaths, whatever you like to call yourself, imagine if we all looked at the things happening in the world from that same perspective. Imagine if we all chose to watch the news. Okay. Watch the news, watch foreign news if you want, so you have a different perspective on it, and see what's going on in the world and send specific energy at that event. One of the shows that I do that gets the biggest reaction and people get very angry and they leave and they never come back and watch me again are my shows on forgiveness, where I talk about forgiving other people and specifically talk about forgiving those who are perpetrating heinous acts, who are doing terrible things in the world, who are hurting, who are killing, who are destroying, who are manipulating money, who are manipulating people, who are manipulating facts. When I speak about forgiving these people, I lose a lot of viewers, but that's okay, because this is what I'm supposed to be doing, okay? Every person has a piece of divine in them. So these people in the world that are doing these heinous acts, what we see as terrible acts, they have a piece of divine within them, the same piece that you do. They're connected to the same collective that we are. And they are lashing out from their own experiences, from their own life experience that they've had, the pain that has been injected to them by what they've gone through, the environmental circumstances that they grow up in. And it's the person who is blowing things up in overseas, who is blowing things up here, thinks that they are working towards a good cause. We don't have very many supervillains in real life that think, I'm going to hurt everyone. Now, are they out there? Yes, they're out there. But a huge majority of the pain that's going on in this world is perpetrated by people who also have that piece of divine, that think they're doing the right thing, that think they're saving their people, that think that they're supporting their family by kidnapping people and ransoming them, that think that they're supporting their family and protecting them by becoming, guerrillas who fight against the government. Everybody sees things from their own perspective and believes that what they are doing is right, okay, is right. Even when they are doing something wrong, they're lashing out from pain. They either have a mission to do right that goes terribly in a different direction, but does right for their people, or they are lashing out from their own pain. Okay, so when we understand this and we look at the current events that are going on the broader scale, we're able to understand they're acting out of pain. They're acting out of their own experiences, and I can empathize with that because I understand pain too. And so you forgive that. You're forgiving the act, but that doesn't mean that you're saying it's okay. You're forgiving them because you understand that they're just doing the best they can. They're just doing something from pain. They're just doing the only thing they understand how. Okay. So then you can look at the things happening on the news And you're able to send that empathy and forgiveness and healing to those people, all right? To those specific groups, to that event that's happening, that shooting, that bomb going off, that, natural disaster, that whatever it is, you're able to send your emotional positivity to them. And I believe that we, as the light workers, as the awakened, we are here to emit that frequency of unconditional love. Okay. But what happens is, because we feel so deeply, we get very entrenched in the emotion of the victim. We get very entrenched in how that connects with us. So, for example, the Me Too movement here in the States about sexual harassment and molestation, and it leads into sex trafficking. Many of us have had those experiences in our lives. And so we look at the abusers, we look at the people the men who are insensitive, or the women who are insensitive. We look at these people who are fighting against that. We look at all of these perpetrators, and we have anger about it. And rather than send healing energy to them and understanding and compassion, not saying that the way that they're dealing with their stuff is right, but saying, you know what, I understand having crap in me. I understand having issues. And I get it. I get it. Okay. So, but what we do is, because we went through it, we once again go back to those emotions that we had when we were going through it. And we pull that anger back out of that space that we were in, rather than using the tools that we now have in the awakening. And I've said this on many of my shows about, how we deal with our emotions from the past. I did a whole show on healing with time travel, where I talk about, when you go back to process these things, you can't go back as the person that you were. You go back as the person you are now, as the observer, and use the tools that you've learned. And this is what we need to be doing when we start addressing these things in current events, when we start seeing these things that are going on in the world, not to take on that role of victim again, not to take on that role of feeling that injustice so deeply. Racism in this country, there's a big thing now with a lot of the people that know politics in the United States on the left point at every Republican and say Nazi. Point at every Republican and say racist, because you are standing by and allowing this to happen. The people on the right are turning around and going, you guys are nuts. That's absolutely crazy. And you're just saying this to get people upset. Both sides have a valid point, but neither side is bothering to let go of their emotions and see it from a different viewpoint, right? Absolutely, Melissa, be the change. Because the people that are screaming Nazi, 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 they are internalizing the injustice of what's going on. They are internalizing the injustice and lashing it back out, rather than seeing each person as an individual, which means that they're doing exactly the same thing that they're rallying against, that they're so angry about. When we get in that mindset and that energy of that emotion, you cannot see past it to fact. You cannot see past fact. You cannot see past it to unity. You cannot see past it to a place of common ground. Because no matter what side you're on in any dispute, in any war, in anything that's going on, no matter what, we have more in common than we have in division. We all have families that we love. We all had a mother or a father or a parent who loved us. We all get up in the morning and put on our clothes and use the bathroom. We all eat. We're all human. We all have emotions. We all have been through horrible stuff. And yet we look at those people on the other side and find everything that makes them separate from us, no matter what your issue is. Even in the spiritual community, with other people in the spiritual community, even people in the spiritual community with people who are religious. We separate. We find the ways that we're different rather than finding the ways that we are similar. I love a good debate. I love a good political debate. I love a good social justice debate. I enjoy hearing other people's viewpoints, seeing how it comes through my own experience, and coming out the other side with a new vision, with a new energy, with a new, like, wow, I never saw it that way, a new perspective to find common ground, right? I always used to say, because when I argue with someone, I want them to agree with me, right? So I'm not going to insult them and scream at them and throw spears at them, throw darts at them, shoot guns at them. I'm not going to be that way if I'm trying to have them agree with me. Because what happens when you start attacking, yelling, screaming, calling names, generalizing, stereotyping? People put up their wall, they put on their earphones, they put on their mask, they stop hearing you, they stop listening to you, they stop seeing you, and communication stops. And they block their heart from getting the message. They block their mind from being open. What you're saying to them might not be true. Your side of the argument might be 100% wrong. It might be 100% wrong, but guess what? That other person is listening to what you're saying and getting your passion and understanding, wow, they're really deep into this, and I can appreciate that passion in that person. Mission accomplished. You've made a connection with another person in a way that is open-hearted and that is acknowledging their right to be on their own path and to have their own opinions, even if you think their opinions are wrong. And they might think your opinions are wrong. It's kind of like family. The people in your family don't have to agree with you on everything. Two people can be married and not have the same religion. Two people can be married and not believe the same way on everything. They can vote differently. They can believe differently. It's all about how we handle that. It's all about how we deal with that. So when we look out in the world and we have this current event conundrum, it's very like, do I pay attention to the news? Do I believe anything on it? Do I look for my own source of news? Do I pretend none of it exists? Do I act like it's all an illusion so it doesn't matter what I do anyways? I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And once again, it's your choice to agree with me or not. But what I would say is that if you believe that we are here to make the change, then you have to be the change with your energy. And saying that something doesn't exist or something doesn't matter, you are now negating that validity of that person, of that journey, of that mission, of that belief system. You're basically saying, screw you. You don't have a right to believe that, and I'm just going to ignore you. If you say all Christians are hypocritical and liars, and so their entire belief system and everyone who's in it, I'm not going to even deal with that. You are literally doing the exact same thing that they are doing. When you say all Republicans or all people who believe, in Brexit, or all people who are the opposite religion of me are stupid, racist, liars, uninformed, watching fake news, blah, blah, blah. But when you say that as a definite, you are doing exactly the same thing they are doing. And this is where the conundrum comes in, because how do you have an opinion and walk that middle ground, right? How do you have an opinion and a belief that's so deeply tied to your own feelings and your own energy and your own trauma and not allow that to come out? It's the same thing we do in our emotional lives. It's the same thing that we do in our emotional lives. We pay attention. Something in current events pisses you off, like somebody telling a lie. If you see something on TV and you're like, oh my God, that is a blatant lie and it makes you angry, figure out why it makes you angry. Use what is going on in the world for your own shift, for your own growth. Dig into why you have such a strong emotional reaction. Don't just go, he's a liar, I'm not watching this anymore, and turn it off. because you've just thrown away not only an opportunity to kind of transmute that energy that you see happening, but you've also thrown away an opportunity to work on yourself that the world was giving you by allowing you to see this particular story about this particular thing. The universe has a way of putting right in front of us the issues that we need to work with within ourselves. And if we are turning away from those things and purposefully cutting parts of society out of our lives and out of our awareness so we don't have to deal with it, that's something that you should be looking at. If you say, I don't watch television because it's all BS and those people are liars and they're just trying to control us, why do you think that? And I don't mean the why with the tinfoil hat and conspiracy and whatever it is that you believe. I mean, emotionally, why does that give you such a strong thing that you actually need to remove yourself from the situation? I know it's difficult to look at things that are hurtful in the world. I know it's difficult to deal with people who hurt us. I know it's difficult to relive these things that have been going on in our lives through the greater picture of what's going on in the world. But the world is a reflection of our inner life. We are a microcosm of the macrocosm. And our emotions inside, do you see my little orb? Our emotions inside are reflected in the world around us. And I know it seems like a small thing. How does shifting what's in me change everything out there? You may be one, but you are also the many. And we may be many, but we are also one. And just like those monks, if 10,000 of them can drop a crime rate by a huge percentage in a town, imagine what 1 million of us awakened can do on this planet. Just by believing more in the commonality of the divinity that we all share than by focusing and believing on those things that divide us, born of pain and fear. It's a very difficult thing. It is not easy to do this and to engage with people who are like that. But I do it all the time in my other world. I have certain people that I've been friends with for a long time that get into a lot of political and social discussions. I love that. And I will literally take on the other side and try to understand their point of view and ask pointed questions about it and track down things that support or disprove and speak to them in a way that is respectful. And I'll tell you what, 9 times out of 10, we find the common ground in the argument. I had a person who said all liberals are pathologically insane and radicalized, and they're all off their rockers. Actually, come down by the bottom of the conversation to agreeing about the things that we should come together on in this particular issue. And that if Congress could have a discussion like we just had, that things would be very different. And their view totally changed 100% because of their interaction with me. It is that open-minded conversation, open-minded, open-hearted communication and exchange of energy that shifts things. Don't meet angry energy with angry energy. Be the water that cools the fire. Don't turn your back on the fire. Be there with your hose and put that fire out. Be the person applauding for those who are on the front lines, applauding for the firemen, bringing them water. Be on the support systems, whatever your role is, whether it's to speak out, to stand back, to just send energy, to hug everyone. Everybody's got a role. Everybody's got a mission. Be willing to step into your role completely. But to do that, you have to look within and you have to deal with these things that keep you from engaging in the 3D world. Because the point of being human is not to transcend humanity and go poof and be gone. The point of being human is to embrace humanity and to use the experience for change, to use the experience to create the next level of evolution or whatever you like to call it. by embracing and overcoming and dealing with these emotional things inside of us, we will change what is going on in the world. We do shift reality. Quantum physics is proving that more and more every day. And we're on the front lines because you're aware of that. And you know your energy changes things. And you know you have powerful energy that you can send out. Let's start using this to change the world, not just cheer each other on and preach to the choir. I want to do more than just preach to the choir. I'm ready to share unconditional love and embody it every day. And I do. I feel I do. And I hope that each one of you is ready to take this on. No matter who's right in a situation, refusing to listen to the other side is the quickest way to continue that situation. When you're having an argument with your spouse, with your significant other, with your other family, I am crazy as hell. With your significant other, when you're having these arguments with other people and you refuse to listen to the other side, the argument will continue indefinitely. You don't have to acknowledge, you're not saying they're right if you listen. You're not saying they're right if you understand their point of view. So here's something simple you can do. If you're a person who's out there hitting mad faces and saying things, instead of hitting the mad face, hit the shocked face. Hit the sad face. That's a small change that you can make where you're not sending angry energy at the person who made that comment. It's a very small thing that you can do if you're not ready to start being like sending your energy out there and forgiving and having that mindset. Just not sending that mad like, hitting that mad button on a post changes the energy of the post. Changes the energy of your engagement with it and with that person. Okay, so that's an easy thing. If you are a person who refuses to engage in any of that and refuses to watch the news and doesn't deal with anybody negative, I would very much like you to watch the news that has the opposite viewpoint of what you believe. And maybe that's all news. I have no idea. At least for a few minutes a day. And examine those emotions that come up in you about what's happening and figure out, am I mad because they're lying? Am I mad because they're of injustice? Am I angry because they're ruining the world? Figure out what it is, because it's connected to an emotional blockage in you. And you can use that stuff to shift yourself. And when you shift yourself, you're shifting the world. It's a little thing that you can do. If you're not ready to step in the whole full arena of understanding and accepting and forgiveness for people who are doing wrong, for people who are racist, for people who are, murderers, whatever it is. But it's a little thing that you can do. 7 minutes over. You can find me at unleashyourlight.org. I have videos. I have free books there that you can download on a PDF. I am here every Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Drew, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, Drew says, whoever states the racism first is a real racist. I couldn't disagree with you more. Whoever states the racism first, maybe they have the most pain about being discriminated against. Doesn't mean they're racist, it just means that they're pushing their pain outwards. Just a different opinion. It's okay for us to have different opinions, Drew, and that's all right. See, I'm open-minded. I listen to that, and I totally see why you say that. That's true. That's okay, Drew. And I totally see why you feel that way, because it's, the one who smelt it dealt it, right? I mean, it always seems that way, because what do? When we accuse someone else of something, it's usually because we feel that way. Sometimes when we accuse somebody else of something, it's because it's happened to us. It's still a strong emotion. It's still a strong energy, and being understanding about that rather than pointing the finger, you brought it up, you must be the racist, gives it a different energy right away. If you're coming at it of, well, you said it, so now I have this belief about you, you're blocking an open communication and an open heart with that person. I mean, I'm sure that you're not doing that, Drew, but I'm just saying in general. All right, I love every single one of you. I love you guys so much.